right, we got some big new developments for you in the brewing GOP civil war. Some big moves made actually by Mitch McConnell here. Let's throw this first piece up. So McConnell says that Marjorie Taylor Greene's embrace of conspiracy theories is a cancer to the Republican Party and to the country. That's a pretty bold statement from him. It should be obvious, right? It should be like just totally clear that embracing literally every conspiracy theory you've ever heard of, plus some, is probably not a great thing from an elected representative in the United States Congress. But, McConnell is someone who plays his cards very carefully and also keeps his cards very close to the vest. So at the same time that he is condemning Marjorie Taylor Greene, he's also boosting, actually, Liz Cheney. Let's throw that piece here up on the screen. I think the two of these taken together are pretty significant. Liz Cheney under a lot of fire for all of the wrong reasons. I mean, there's a lot of good reasons for Liz Cheney to be under fire, most notably her sort of warmongering and neocon perspective. But that's not what she's taking heat for. Instead, she's taking heat for doing what, in my view, is the right thing, voting to impeach Donald Trump, and in a lot of ways sort of leading the charge on that front for what were completely outrageous and inexcusable actions. That's the area where she's really facing a lot of fire from people like Matt Gaetz, who flew to Wyoming, and she's got a primary challenge and may not survive re-election. So the fact that McConnell is really clearly picking sides here, I think, is pretty telling.
It is telling. And it's, what's interesting is that this shows that he thinks that he might be able to get control, but I don't think he realizes just how much the caucus would be against him. And, in the Marjorie Taylor Greene situation, as we've sat here and we just talked about, which is that it's a huge problem. It's an albatross on the back of the GOP, and it will be for years to come, because she is actually extraordinarily representative of the grievance for about 35 to 40% of the Republican base, who are exactly the people who voted for Trump and who are exactly really the most coalesced constituency of the Republican Party for when you want to win a primary. So if you censor her and you remove her committee assignments, which is something we don't know if the GOP is going to do. Let's put this up there on the screen. So the House Democrats are actually moving to strip her of her committee assignments. This is something that Kevin McCarthy could do, but we know that there's going to be a meeting that's coming up just around some of her past statements, I think specifically around endorsing violence against Nancy Pelosi. But the problem that they have internally is that doing so would cross Trump, because Marjorie Taylor Greene received a call of support from Trump recently, and she has said she's going to go meet with Trump, quote unquote, soon. So as I predicted here on the show, Trump will very much be a king maker in American politics for a long time to come. The kings that he's going to make are people who are undyingly loyal to him and to him alone, willing to follow him into the land of Dominion conspiracy. And as long as Marjorie Taylor Greene is one of the few people who's not only willing to just do that, but to go as far as she possibly can, she will win her primaries. She will probably be 10 times more popular with the Republican base than Mitch McConnell ever will be. So I think it's really interesting to see how it's going to play out in the coming months, because let's say they do censor her, or remove her committee assignments. I think then that she's probably going to win even more votes down in her deep red district than she did last time around, and will probably become even more popular. And let's be honest, it's not like a lot of these people, a lot of these GOP reps, like her in particular, they're not doing committee work anyway. Like all they're doing is tweeting out statements and going on TV, or in her case, like Twitter streams or whatever. So it's not a real consequence. I mean, they're doing her a favor in many respects. She doesn't even have to pretend to work.
You don't think she's a valuable member of the education committee?
Yeah, I'm just like, okay. I mean, most of these people are like, look, this isn't just Marjorie. Like, most of these people are totally useless at doing anything. Like, you can count on one hand the amount of serious people who are within the U.S. Congress who actually do committee work. But all of that being said, I think it's going to be a big problem. And that Mitch McConnell, by putting himself very clearly on like one side of the dividing line, is very much, not in the, or he's very much in the minority in terms of the Republican base. And he actually could risk his leadership if he goes too far into this. I think he'll probably be fine, but he's going to take a big hit if he continues to wade into these types of fights.
Well, here's the thing. So I have actually a lot of thoughts on this. For one, I just want to say I don't enjoy covering a lot of Marjorie Taylor Greene, right? Like I don't enjoy knowing everything that she's done on Facebook and every insane like Zionist laser theory that she's invented. Like I hate that she gets so much attention. But the reason I think that we have to cover her, and I think why we both feel that we want to cover her, is because she is perfectly emblematic of one potential future of the Republican Party.
Yes.
And by the way, I think it's the future that is more likely. So that's why it's important to pay attention to what is going on with her in particular. With McConnell, look, McConnell is not like a moral actor. So let's not pretend like, oh, he's taking the side of good versus evil here. He's worried about what he wants to be as majority leader again, right? He wants to win back the Senate. And he saw what happened last time when the GOP nominated a bunch of kooks like Sharon Angle and Christina O'Donnell and Richard Murdoch and Todd Akin and lost all of these completely winnable Senate races because even in states that should have been gimmies, they nominated people who were so far out of the mainstream that they couldn't win in a state like Missouri, couldn't win in a state like Indiana, et cetera. So that's what he fears and is trying to preempt. Will he be successful in that? I think you're right. No, I think it's too late. I think that they have created this beast and it is loose, it is out of control, and it is too late to really try to rein it in, especially with the kind of like light touch tactics that McConnell appears to be using. Let me weigh in on the side of Liz Cheney and let me do some censoring of Marjorie Taylor Greene. That's not going to be sufficient whatsoever. But to that point about McConnell's game here, I just saw this come across. The DCCC just launched a $500,000 TV and digital ad campaign today, accusing Republicans of standing with Q and not with you, right? Mitch McConnell does not want to see those ads going out with some justification in 2022, a year when Republicans should do well if history, holds, but in which they are in danger of completely blowing it and Democrats actually picking up more seats in the Senate if they continue in this direction. So those are kind of the dynamics underlying this whole situation that we see playing out on the surface.
Yeah, you're exactly right, which he's not doing this for moral reasons. He wants to win the majority again. And part of the problem is that neither side here really, I mean, look, I'm not equivocating. I'm just saying like McConnell also sucks, right? Like he has his own ideology that they're trying to push in more. And they're part of the reason why Trump even was allowed to be elected in the first place by the GOP base. So on a broad level, they have no credibility. And now they're reaping the consequences for years of selling out for a long time. So, in a way, I don't really feel bad for anybody here, but it is a big problem for the Republican Party in the future.
There's no one to cheer for. It's just an interesting spectacle to watch unfold.
That's right.
All right, more rising for you after this.